So working on the truck, as you can see, I've removed the fenders and the grill shell. And I started working on the fenders a little bit, and I have to work on the nose too, the shell, the grill shell. And I'll show you, I took the fender, this fender off. It's like two pieces off. You can see here the channel that this one fits into, and these little holes here, those were rivets. So the two halves were riveted together. Well, I decided to take those out so I can clean this up properly, and then I'll probably just screw them together with screws. And then meanwhile, I can take this piece here and fill these holes like I want to, because I'm going to re-drill those holes. So I want to fill those up, and then I can fix, like there's a little crack here. I can weld up any other holes and stuff around here. This one I haven't taken apart yet, but since I took this apart and started working on it, I started also working on the nose piece here. I took this off. This is obviously the back side, but there was a hole here and a big hole here. This hole I think I'm going to use. I will re-drill another hole. This is the bolt for the bracket that holds the grill half on. So that's what I was starting to do, but then I decided that I was going to pop these rivets off, and I thought the easiest way would be to grind the head off and weld it. So that's what I proceeded to do. However, I did one side and I welded and I was grinding on them, and something just didn't seem right with it. So when I went to the other side, I put a magnet on the rivet. Here's the rivet, and it's aluminum. So when you grind it, you know, it's not shooting sparks. But that was there, and yeah, you could weld it, but you're not welding to the rivet. So is what I ended up doing, grinding them down, punching them out, and welding it all the way through, like a plug weld. But before I did all that, I wanted to make sure that this thing wasn't going to move, so I put a few tacks in here and here and here on both sides, just to reinforce this to this. So then I plug welded where the rivets were. Did the same to that side, so there's no more aluminum rivets in there. I also made this bracket that I needed to make for this grill half. I still got to weld all these up, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my wire. I got 035 wire in there right now, and I think that I really should go to something like 028 or 9, whatever that number is. It'll be a lot. That's kind of a little more delicate of a piece. Then I can move on to some of this other stuff. But that's where I'm at right now. It's not pretty, but it will be good. When you grind these down, you got to be careful how far down you grind them, because you don't really want to take a lot of this parent material away. You really want to concentrate on that weld. So well, that's what I've got so far. So on the nose again, I started to flush some of this out, grind some of this away. As you can see, little high spot here. But other than that, these form in pretty good. Of course, this will be skimmed and reformed, but it'll be thin, so just kind of smooth it all out. So while I was doing this, after I kind of started finishing this up, I started looking a little bit more at the center, And so I thought that I would start working on this too, because I want to get this whole thing set up and working correctly. Did not like the where this was set. The nice thing about the soldering that I did, you just heat it up and you can pull it apart, or you can cut through it however you want to do it. It's not that big of a deal. But what I have is an original grill center with an aftermarket crank hole cover. They don't fit together. And I can show you. You come up here, see how wide of a gap that is? There's nothing that holds these two together, or if there was, it's not there now. But you can see how it doesn't even line up right. So what I did, I took this crank hole cover, and maybe some people may be a little upset with me, but I cut down inside here so I can actually move this guy over so it'll line up with that. Same with this one. Actually, this one was broke, so I can actually pull this apart and line it up. There was another part down here that was broke, and I squished it together so it squished between these two pieces better. But as you can see, there's a little less gap here, a little more gap here. Unfortunately, that just may be the way it is, because when this comes over, let's just move that whole thing over. When this comes over here, you know, it's still got a gap there where this one's tighter. So I'll pull that like that, and maybe I can do a little something more down here. But so right now, I'm trying to get this thing to fit in straight, you know, all the way. So it's got to line up with this peak, lines up with that peak all the way down to this peak. Put a string on it. I looked at it. I eyeballed it, and it's pretty good. It's good enough for what I'm going to do. But now the question is, how do you get this thing to stay in here? Well, I thought about, you know, bolting it from the back side, but I don't like the way it fits. I don't like all this gap. Angles are wrong. Just doesn't fit right. So I might just solder this on. Then that'll make this piece all one piece. I can sand it all together. I can get this so it's all right. The only other problem I really kind of have is that there's a little less gap on this side than this side when it sits here. This is straight, but this isn't. I've been grinding this down a little bit to kind of help offset that. It looks like I can go a little bit more. And then I might do a little work here to kind of bring that a little tighter, to kind of give it a little tighter like that, or maybe move this one over a little bit more. One of the two, don't know which. But anyway, just thought I would kind of run that by. That is the grill with the crank hole cover. This will all be the same color as this, chrome or whatever. So that's where I'm at. So on the grill, I was pointing some things out. So anyway, what I did is, now you can see that this is tighter here and here. I cut this, moved this in just a little bit, and then soldered it back together again. I also had to change this angle. It had to come up just a little bit. So I cut this and I just bent it up just a little bit, squeezed this together, and re-soldered that in there. Now you can see that the alignment is much better. I had cut one of the inside supports here to move this one in. I epoxied that into place, and that's why I have the zip tie here. So I'll do the same thing here. I already got it. It actually was broke. So now I just got to pull it out and epoxy that in there so it's all lined up. Otherwise, it's coming together the way I want it. So I made some adjustments. I think I mentioned this. Then I made some more cuts on here to to swing these out to line them up here, line them up there, so they're all, you know, lined up. Now I put an epoxy in there. This is Steel Stick by J.B. Weld. Supposed to bond metals together. This is cast aluminum. This is pot metal, and that's my problem. And like I said, I use an epoxy down inside when I cut these and split these a little. I had to go a little wider to line up with everything. I had to do that, and I use an epoxy because I don't have a TIG. So this is where I'm at so far. And here's after I did a little light sanding on the epoxy. You can see it's kind of filling in here. Okay. So this piece is going to look all like one piece rather than having a crank hole cover. That I think is the best way to try to hold this in. Otherwise you'll have to bolt it in somehow behind, and like I showed, the gaps weren't very good through here, so I wanted it a lot smoother. So there it is. I'm gonna leave it at that for now. I'll do some more work to it, but that's gonna be about it for right now until I do body work. And I'm gonna paint this, I think, so I don't have to worry about this epoxy being re-chromed. So I'm not gonna worry too much about that. And what I'm also gonna do here is when I strip this out, I'll blast this whole thing, and then I'll probably use some fiberglass or filler to kind of take care of some of these little imperfections and stuff, so I can get this all nice and smooth, like, you know, doing regular body work to it. So there it is. That's going to be it for now on that.